My name is Anne, and I am 53 years old. I never once imagined I would sit in a courtroom staring at my own son from across the aisle. The man I raised the baby I once held was suing me for $550,000, all because I refused to pay for his luxury beach house. How did we get here? How does a mother become a defendant in her own child's lawsuit? But when the judge asked one simple question, my son's face turned white. Before I tell you what that question was, I would love to know where you are joining me from today. Please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. Because trust me, the ending of this story is something my son never saw coming. Now let me take you back to where it all began. To understand how I ended up in that courtroom, you need to know where I came from. Because my relationship with money, with work, with everything I have today was shaped by a childhood that knew nothing but struggle. I was born in a small coal mining town in West Virginia. Our house was barely more than a shack with thin walls that let the winter wind whistle through every crack. My father worked in the mines, coming home each night covered in black dust, coughing into his handkerchief. My mother cleaned houses for wealthier families in town, scrubbing floors and washing windows for barely enough to feed us. There were 5 of us children. I was the third stuck in the middle, wearing hand-me-downs from my older sisters until the fabric was so thin you could see through it. Some nights dinner was nothing more than beans and cornbread. Other nights there was no dinner at all. But my mother never complained. She taught us something that would stay with me forever. She would look at us with tired but determined eyes and say, "Never expect anyone to hand you anything. You earn what you get." Those words became the foundation of my entire life. I graduated high school with decent grades and a small scholarship, but that scholarship covered barely a fraction of what college cost. So I worked. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously while attending community college. I waited tables at a diner from 6 in the morning until noon. Then I rushed to class. After class, I cleaned office buildings until midnight. On weekends, I babysat for families in the neighborhood. I was exhausted, constantly exhausted. But I never stopped, because I knew that education was my only ticket out of that mining town, out of that cycle of poverty that had trapped my family for generations. I studied accounting because I was good with numbers, and because accountants could find work anywhere. When I graduated, I had student loans hanging over my head like a dark cloud. But I also had determination that no debt could diminish. I moved to Ohio and took a job as a junior accountant at a small manufacturing company. The salary was modest, but I lived like a monk. I rented a tiny studio apartment with a hot plate for a kitchen. I bought clothes from thrift stores. I packed my lunch every single day. Every spare dollar went toward my student loans. It took me 10 years, but I paid off every cent. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of saying no to vacations, no to new cars, no to anything that was not absolutely necessary. And when I made that final payment, I sat in my apartment and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of being free. By then, I had worked my way up to senior accountant. My salary had grown, but my lifestyle had not. I continued to save, to invest carefully, to build a cushion that would protect me from ever returning to the poverty of my childhood. Then I met Harold. He walked into my office one Tuesday afternoon, a mechanical engineer from the company next door who needed help with some financial paperwork. He was tall and kind with gentle eyes and a laugh that filled whatever room he was in. More importantly, he understood me. He came from a similar background, a working-class family in Pennsylvania where nothing was given and everything was earned. We married when I was 30 years old. It was a simple ceremony at the courthouse followed by dinner at a modest Italian restaurant. We did not need fancy. We needed each other. Together we bought a small house in the suburbs of Columbus. Nothing extravagant. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a backyard just big enough for a vegetable garden. We paid off the mortgage in 15 years by making extra payments whenever we could. When our son Derek was born, I thought my heart would burst from love. He was perfect. 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, a cry that could shake the walls. I held him in the hospital and whispered promises to him, promises that he would never know hunger the way I had, that he would have opportunities I could only dream of, that I would give him everything I could. 3 years later, Megan arrived. Our family was complete. Harold and I both worked hard to provide for our children, but we also tried to teach them the values we held dear. We gave them chores and allowances. We made them save half of any money they received. We told them stories about our own childhoods, about the struggles that shaped us. Some lessons take, others do not. When Derek was 18 and Megan was 15, tragedy struck our family. Harold collapsed at work one afternoon. A massive heart attack. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was gone. I was 48 years old, a widow with 2 children still at home. The grief nearly swallowed me whole. Harold was my partner, my best friend, the person who understood my fears and celebrated my victories. Without him, the world felt tilted, wrong, incomplete. But I could not fall apart. Derek was about to start college. Megan still had 3 years of high school. They needed their mother. They needed stability. Harold had been responsible just like me. He had life insurance. He had savings. He left us in a position where we would not struggle financially. But I did not touch that money recklessly. I invested it carefully, added to it steadily, and continued working. By the time I retired at 62, I had built a nest egg that would see me comfortably through my remaining years, not wealthy by any stretch, but secure, safe, protected from the poverty that still haunted my nightmares. That security was mine. I had earned it through 50 years of disciplined sacrifice and hard work. And then my son decided he was entitled to it. Derek and Megan grew up in the same house with the same parents, hearing the same lessons about work and money and responsibility. But somewhere along the way, they became 2 very different people. Megan was always the quieter one. She studied hard, earned good grades, and never asked for more than she needed. When she graduated high school, she enrolled in nursing school. She worked part-time at a hospital while studying, learning both from textbooks and from real patients. Now she is a registered nurse at a local hospital. She married Nathan, a high school history teacher with kind eyes and a patient soul. They live in a modest home not far from mine. Nothing fancy. A 3-bedroom ranch with a small yard where their 2 children play. Megan calls me every Sunday evening without fail. How are you? Mom, do you need anything? She brings the grandchildren over for dinner at least twice a month. She remembers my birthday, my anniversary with Harold, the small details that show someone truly cares. When I offered to help with a down payment on their house, Megan refused. Mom, you worked too hard for that money. Nathan and I will figure it out. And they did. They saved. They sacrificed. They earned their home the way Harold and I had earned ours. I could not be prouder of my daughter. Derek, though. Derek was different from the start. He was the firstborn, the son, and perhaps Harold and I gave him too much attention, too much praise. He was handsome and charming, with a smile that could light up a room. He knew how to make people like him. He knew how to get what he wanted. In high school, Derek was popular but unfocused. His grades were mediocre, not because he lacked intelligence, but because he lacked discipline. He wanted results without effort, rewards without work. When it came time for college, Derek chose a business program at a state university. I paid his tuition, his room, and board his books. Everything. I wanted him to graduate without debt, to have the fresh start I never had. But every semester, Derek called asking for more money. His allowance was not enough. His friends were going on spring break trips. He needed a better laptop. He wanted to join a fraternity. The requests never stopped. I should have said no more often. But he was my son, and I remembered my own struggles. I did not want him to struggle the way I had. That was my mistake. Derek graduated with a business degree and immediately announced that he deserved a high-level position. Entry-level jobs were beneath him, he said. He had a degree. He had potential. Companies should recognize that. Reality disagreed. Derek bounced from job to job, never staying anywhere longer than a year. The work was boring. The boss was unfair. The company did not appreciate him. There was always an excuse, always someone else to blame. Then he met Brittany. She was beautiful, I will give her that. Blonde hair, perfect makeup, designer clothes. She worked in fashion marketing and talked constantly about brands and trends and things that cost more than my first car. The first time Derek brought her home for dinner, she looked around my modest living room with barely concealed disdain. "Your home is so cozy," she said. I could hear the quotation marks around the word cozy. She and Derek were perfect for each other in all the wrong ways. They both wanted the finer things in life. They both believed they deserved those things. Neither of them wanted to work for them. Their wedding was the first major red flag. Derek came to me 6 months before the ceremony. He wanted a destination wedding in Cabo San Lucas, a week-long celebration for 150 guests, open bar, live band, the works. "Mom, I need you to help with the costs," he said. "It is my wedding. I only get one." I looked at my son at this stranger who wore my child's face and felt something cold settle in my stomach. How much? He named a figure that made my eyes water. More money than Harold and I had spent on our entire first year of marriage. I should have said no. I should have drawn a line right there. But he was my only son, and he was getting married, and I convinced myself this was a one-time thing. I paid for half the wedding, $35,000. Megan and Nathan had gotten married at a local church with a reception in the fellowship hall. Their entire wedding cost $4,000. But I wrote the check because I loved my son, and I wanted him to be happy. The honeymoon was 2 weeks in the Maldives. Derek put it on a credit card, then asked me to help pay it off. Just this once, Mom. Brittany really wanted to go somewhere special. I paid off the credit card, $18,000. After the wedding, things only got worse. Derek and Brittany rented a penthouse apartment downtown. They drove matching luxury cars. They took vacations to Europe, to the Caribbean, to anywhere Instagram-worthy. Derek's income as a real estate agent was unpredictable. Some months he did well, other months nothing. But their spending never slowed down. The calls started coming. Mom, I need a loan to cover rent this month. Mom, the car payment is due, and I am short. Mom, Brittany needs some dental work and insurance does not cover it. At first I gave. Then I started keeping track. Over the course of 5 years, I had given Derek more than $80,000 in loans that were never repaid. Every time I mentioned the money, he had an excuse. I will pay you back when I close the next big deal. I will pay you back when my commission comes through. I will pay you back soon, Mom. I promise. The deals never closed. The commissions never came through. The promises were as empty as his bank account. I finally decided enough was enough. The next time Derek called asking for money, I said no. The phone went silent for a long moment. Then his voice came back hard and cold. Why not? You have plenty saved up. That money is for my retirement, Derek. I worked my entire life for it. You are being selfish, he said. Family helps family. I have helped you, I replied. I have helped you more than you will ever know, but I cannot keep funding a lifestyle you cannot afford. He hung up on me. We did not speak for 3 weeks after that call. I thought he was just sulking, that he would come around eventually. I had no idea what was coming next. The phone call came on a Saturday morning in March. I was in my garden turning the soil for spring planting when my cell phone rang. Derek's name flashed on the screen. I wiped the dirt from my hands and answered, hoping this would be an apology, a reconciliation. Mom, great news. His voice was bright, excited. We bought a beach house. I sat down heavily on my garden bench. Excuse me. A beach house. In Florida. Right on the water. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, private beach access. It is absolutely stunning. My mind raced. Derek could barely make rent on his apartment. He had no savings. How could he possibly afford a beach house? How much did it cost? I asked carefully. $1.2 million. He said it like it was nothing, like normal people bought $1-million homes every day. Derek, how are you paying for that? That is where you come in. Mom, my blood went cold. We put down a deposit on a credit card, he continued, and we got approved for a mortgage. But the monthly payments are pretty steep. About $8,000 a month? $8,000 every month. You have been saving your whole life, he said. You do not even spend anything. You live in that little house driving that old car. What is the point of having all that money if you never use it? That money is for my future, Derek. Mom, come on. He was getting impatient now. You have saved enough. It is time to help the family. Just take over the mortgage payments for a while until I get on my feet. A while? He wanted me to pay $8,000 a month for a while. How long is a while? I asked. I do not know. A few years, maybe, until my business takes off. I did the math quickly in my head. A few years of payments. We were talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, money I had spent my entire life accumulating. Derek, I cannot do that. Cannot or will not both. I will not spend my retirement savings on a beach house I did not buy and will never live in. The silence that followed was thick and hostile. You have always loved Megan more than me, he finally said. His voice was bitter, accusatory. She never asks for anything, so she is the favorite. I ask for help and you treat me like a stranger. That is not true, and you know it. I paid for your college. I paid for your wedding. I have given you over $80,000 in loans that you never repaid. That was different. How How was it different? He did not answer. Derek, I love you, but I cannot keep enabling this. You bought a house you cannot afford. That is not my responsibility to fix. Fine, he snapped. If that is how you feel, then fine. He hung up before I could say another word. 2 days later, an email arrived. The subject line read mortgage documents. Inside was a PDF of the mortgage paperwork for the beach house, along with a short message from Derek. Just look it over. Think about what family means. I did not respond. 2 months passed with no contact. I thought perhaps Derek was finally accepting reality, finally understanding that he needed to solve his own problems. I should have known better. One afternoon in May, Brittany called me. I almost did not answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Anne, we need to talk. Her voice was sweet, syrupy fake. Derek is too proud to call you himself. What is there to talk about? We are in trouble. The beach house was a stretch, I admit that, but we really thought we could make it work. Now the payments are piling up and we might lose everything. Then sell the house, I said simply. We cannot. The market is down. We would lose the deposit and probably owe even more. Brittany, I am sorry, but this is not my problem. Her tone changed instantly, the sweetness evaporating like morning dew. You have the money to help us. You are just too selfish to share it. Derek is your son. Does that mean nothing to you? It means everything, but helping him does not mean paying for mistakes he chose to make. You will regret this, she said coldly. Derek is not going to let this go. The call ended. I stared at my phone, unsettled by her words. I had no idea how prophetic they would prove to be. 3 months after that phone call with Brittany, I came home from grocery shopping to find an envelope taped to my front door. It bore the seal of the county court. I carried it inside with trembling hands. I sat at my kitchen table. I opened it, and my world tilted on its axis. Derek was suing me. The documents were formal legalistic, but the essence was simple enough. Derek claimed I owed him $550,000. He alleged that I had made verbal promises throughout his life to support him financially. He claimed that my refusal to pay for his beach house constituted breach of an implied family contract. He accused me of unjust enrichment, arguing that my savings existed partly because of sacrifices he had made as a child. I read the papers 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding something. But no. My son, the child I had raised and loved and sacrificed for, was taking me to court. The lawsuit demanded I pay the total mortgage obligation on the beach house, $550,000. I put the papers down and cried. Not gentle tears, great racking sobs that shook my whole body. 40 years of motherhood, of love, of trying my best, and this was where it led. To a courtroom, to lawyers, to my own child, calling me a defendant. When the tears finally stopped, I called Megan. Mom, what is wrong? She heard the tremor in my voice immediately. I told her. She was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. He did what he is suing me, for $550,000, because I will not pay for his beach house. Mom, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. Megan's voice shook with anger. How can he do this to you? I do not know, sweetheart. I do not understand any of it. Nathan and I are coming over, right now. They arrived within the hour. Megan hugged me tight while Nathan read through the legal documents. His face grew darker with every page. Anne, this lawsuit has no merit, he said finally. There is no such thing as an implied family contract. Parents are not legally obligated to fund their adult children's lifestyles. This is frivolous. But I still have to respond, I said. I still have to go to court. He nodded grimly. You need a lawyer. I found one through a friend's recommendation. Margaret was 60 years old, sharp as a tack, with 30 years of experience in civil litigation. I liked her immediately. She reminded me of myself, a woman who had worked hard for everything she had and did not suffer fools gladly. I showed her Derek's lawsuit. She read it with raised eyebrows. Your son filed this? She asked. Yes. She shook her head slowly. I have seen many things in my career, Mrs. Anne, but a child suing their mother because she will not buy them a vacation home. That is a new one. Can he win? Margaret set down the papers. Legally, no. There is no basis for this claim. You made no written agreement. You have no contractual obligation. The fact that you gave him money in the past was generosity, not duty. Then why are we here? Because he filed the lawsuit and the court has to hear it. We will respond, present our evidence, and let the judge decide. But I want you to prepare yourself emotionally. This is going to be painful. You will have to sit in a courtroom and listen to your son say terrible things about you. Can you handle that?" I thought about it. I thought about Derek as a baby, as a little boy, as a teenager. I thought about all the love I had poured into him, all the hopes I had held for his future. "Yes," I said finally. "I can handle it, because I did nothing wrong." Margaret smiled. "Good. Then let us get to work." Over the next several weeks, we prepared our case. I gathered every piece of evidence I could find: receipts from Derek's college tuition, records of the wedding expenses I had covered, bank statements showing every loan I had given him, emails and text messages where he asked for money and promised to repay it. None of those loans had ever been repaid. Not a single dollar. Margaret also did some digging into Derek's lifestyle. What she found would prove invaluable in court: social media posts showing Derek and Brittany on expensive vacations, Instagram photos of designer clothes and luxury goods, check-ins at high-end restaurants and exclusive clubs. "Your son claims he is in financial distress," Margaret said, spreading the printouts across her desk. "But his social media tells a different story. He wants money for a lifestyle, not for survival." The night before the trial, I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering where I had gone wrong. Had I spoiled Derek too much? Had I not taught him well enough? Was this my fault? But then I thought about Megan. Same parents, same household, same lessons. And she had turned out completely different. Kind, responsible, hardworking. A daughter any mother would be proud of. Some choices are not about how we were raised, I realized. Some choices are just about who we decide to become. Derek had decided to become someone who would sue his own mother. That was his choice, not mine. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lighting, and American flag hanging behind the judge's bench. It felt ordinary, almost mundane for a place where families came to tear each other apart. I arrived with Margaret and Megan. Megan had insisted on coming for moral support. Nathan stayed home with the children, but he sent me a text that morning. "Stay strong, Anne. The truth is on your side." Derek was already there when we entered. He sat at the plaintiff's table with his lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. Brittany sat in the row behind them, her arms crossed, her expression sour. Derek did not look at me as I walked past. I looked at him, though. I looked at my son and tried to find the little boy I remembered. The one who used to crawl into my lap and ask for bedtime stories. The one who cried when his goldfish died and insisted on a funeral in the backyard. That boy was gone. The man in his place was a stranger. "All rise," the bailiff called. The Honorable Judge Patricia Coleman presiding. The judge entered. She was perhaps 60 years old, with silver hair pulled back in a severe bun and reading glasses perched on her nose. Her face was stern but not unkind. She looked like a woman who had heard every excuse in the book and was not impressed by any of them. We sat. The proceedings began. Derek's lawyer went first. He painted a picture of a cold, withholding mother who hoarded wealth while her son struggled. He claimed that I had made promises throughout Derek's life to support him to help him succeed. He argued that my refusal to honor those promises constituted a breach of trust, a violation of the implicit contract that exists between parent and child. My client simply wanted his mother's help in a time of need, the lawyer concluded. Instead, she turned her back on him. She chose money over family. Then Derek himself took the stand. He was good, I will give him that. Charismatic, convincing. He spoke about how hard his childhood had been after his father died, how he had taken on responsibilities, helped around the house, supported his mother through her grief, how he had always believed that family took care of family. "My mother always said she would be there for me," Derek testified, his voice cracking slightly. "She said I could count on her. When I bought the beach house, I thought she would understand. I thought she would want to help. Instead, she cut me off completely." He talked about his financial struggles, his stagnant career, his fear of losing his home. He even produced tears, dabbing at his eyes with a handkerchief. "All I am asking for is what she promised," he concluded, what any son would expect from his mother. When it was Margaret's turn, she wasted no time. "Mr. Derek," she began, "your mother paid for your college education in full. Is that correct?" "Yes, but that was just—" "Yes or no, please." "Yes." "And she contributed $35,000 to your wedding." Derek shifted, uncomfortably. "Yes, She also paid off an $18,000 honeymoon trip that you put on a credit card I was going to pay her back. But you did not. Margaret's voice was sharp. In fact, I have records showing that over the past 5 years your mother has given you over $80,000 in loans. Loans that you promised to repay. Not $1 has been returned. Is that accurate? I had some setbacks. Is that accurate, Mr. Derrick? Yes, he admitted reluctantly. Margaret turned to the judge. Your Honor, I would like to submit these documents into evidence. They include bank records, text messages, and emails showing every loan Mrs. Ann provided to her son, along with his repeated promises to repay. None were honored. The judge nodded. So noted. Margaret then pulled out a stack of printouts. I would also like to present evidence of the plaintiff's current lifestyle. She showed photo after photo. Derrick and Brittany at a resort in Cancun. Brittany holding shopping bags from designer stores. Derrick posing next to a brand new sports car. Check-ins at 5-star restaurants. Your Honor, these images are from the plaintiff's social media accounts posted within the last year, the same period during which he claims he could not afford his mortgage payments and needed his mother to bail him out. I glanced at Derrick. His face had gone pale. Mr. Derrick, Margaret continued, you testified that you are in financial distress. Yet here you are on a Caribbean vacation. Here is your wife with $3,000 worth of handbags. Here you are with what appears to be a $90,000 car. Can you explain this discrepancy? Derrick's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled him. The plaintiff opened the door to financial testimony, she said. The witness will answer. Derrick stammered. Those were business expenses. Image is important in real estate. Image, Margaret repeated. So your image is important enough to justify luxury vacations and designer goods, but your mother is selfish for not funding your beach house. Derrick had no response. Then the judge spoke. She looked directly at Derrick and her gaze was penetrating. Mr. Derrick, I have a question for you. Yes, Your Honor. You claim your mother owes you money because she promised to help you. Can you show me any written agreement, any contract, any documentation whatsoever that supports this claim? Derrick's mouth opened, closed, opened again. It was a verbal promise. Family does not need contracts. I see. The judge's voice was dry. And when your mother paid for your college education, your wedding, your honeymoon, and gave you tens of thousands of dollars over the years, was that not helping you? That was different. How so? Derrick could not answer. The judge leaned forward. Let me ask you another question, Mr. Derrick. At what age do you believe an adult child stops being financially responsible for their own decisions? The courtroom was silent. Derrick's face had gone from pale to red. He looked down at his hands, unable to meet the judge's eyes. I do not. That was not a rhetorical question, the judge said. I am genuinely curious. Because from what I have seen today, you are a 40-year-old man who bought a house he could not afford and expected his retired mother to foot the bill. When does personal responsibility enter this equation? Derrick had no answer. Judge Coleman did not wait to issue her ruling. She looked at the documents before her, at the evidence Margaret had presented at Derrick, sitting red-faced at the plaintiff's table. Then she removed her reading glasses and spoke. This case is dismissed with prejudice. My heart leaped, but I kept my composure. Derrick's lawyer started to object, but the judge silenced him with a look. There is no evidence of any written contract between the plaintiff and the defendant, she continued. Verbal promises of familial support, even if they existed, do not constitute legally binding agreements. More importantly, the defendant has already provided substantial financial support to the plaintiff throughout his adult life. College tuition, wedding expenses, multiple loans totaling over $80,000, none of which were repaid. She turned her gaze to Derrick. Mr. Derrick, parents are not obligated by law to fund their adult children's lifestyles. The fact that your mother chose not to continue enabling irresponsible financial behavior is entirely within her rights. What I have witnessed today is not a legitimate legal claim. It is an adult child attempting to manipulate the court system to extract money from his own mother because she had the audacity to say no. Her words hung in the air like a verdict of character, not just law. I strongly suggest you reflect on your choices, she added. Suing your own mother because she will not buy you a beach house is not only legally baseless but morally questionable. You are a grown man, Mr. Derrick. I suggest you start acting like one. She gathered her papers. Furthermore, because this lawsuit was clearly frivolous, I am ordering the plaintiff to pay the defendant's legal fees in full. I heard Brittany gasp from behind Derek. The lawyer's face went slack with surprise. Derek himself looked like he had been slapped. $25,000 in legal fees, added to whatever he had already paid his own lawyer, added to the debt from the beach house, added to all the money he had spent trying to take mine. The judge stood. This court is adjourned. And just like that, it was over. Megan squeezed my hand, tears streaming down her face. Mom, you did it. You won. I did not feel like I had won anything. I felt hollowed out, exhausted, sad beyond measure. I had defended myself against my own son. What kind of victory was that? As we gathered our things, I heard raised voices from Derek's side of the courtroom. Brittany was furious, her whisper sharp enough to cut glass. You said this would work. You said she would settle. Now we are even more in debt. What were you thinking? Derek's response was too quiet for me to hear, but I caught fragments. Not my fault, lawyer said. She should have. Always someone else to blame. That was Derek. That had always been Derek. Margaret touched my arm. Anne let us go. I nodded. I did not look back at my son. I could not. Outside the courthouse, the autumn air was crisp and clean. I breathed deeply, filling my lungs, trying to release the tension that had coiled in my chest for months. What happens now? I asked Margaret. He has no grounds for appeal, she said. The dismissal was with prejudice, which means he cannot refile. And the order for him to pay your legal fees is binding. If he does not pay, you can pursue collection. I shook my head. I do not care about the money. I just want this to be over. Margaret studied me for a moment. It is over, Anne. Legally at least. But family wounds, those take longer to heal. She was right about that. News of the lawsuit spread quickly. A local newspaper ran a story Sun Tzu's mother for refusing to pay beach house mortgage. The article went viral. People shared it on social media with comments ranging from outrage to disbelieving. What kind of person sues their own mother? This is everything wrong with entitled kids today. That judge's speech should be mandatory reading for every parent. Derek and Brittany deleted their social media accounts. Their carefully curated image of success and luxury crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. People who had admired them now mocked them. Business associates distanced themselves. Friends stopped calling. Within 6 months, they lost the beach house. The bank foreclosed when they could not make the payments. They lost the deposit, lost the money they had put into renovations, lost everything they had tried to build on a foundation of debt and delusion. Brittany left him shortly after. I heard through Megan that she filed for divorce citing financial irresponsibility. The woman who had pushed Derek to maintain appearances, who had helped drive him to sue his own mother, abandoned him the moment the money ran out. I would like to say I felt satisfied, that I enjoyed watching my son face consequences for his actions. But I did not. I felt sad. Sad for the boy he had been. Sad for the man he had become. Sad for the relationship we would never have again. I did not reach out to Derek, and he did not reach out to me. Months passed in silence. I focused on my own life. I spent time with Megan and the grandchildren. I worked in my garden. I joined a book club at the library. I lived the quiet, peaceful retirement I had worked 50 years to earn. 2 years after the court case, I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset when my phone rang. The name on the screen made my heart skip. Derek. I almost did not answer. But after everything, after all the pain and betrayal, he was still my son. I picked up the phone. Mom. His voice was different. Softer. Smaller. Derek. A long pause. Can we talk? Please, I was quiet for a moment. Then I said yes. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next afternoon. Neutral territory. Public space. I did not know what to expect. Derek was already there when I arrived. He looked different. Thinner. Older, worn around the edges. Gone was the designer clothing and the expensive watch. He wore a plain shirt and jeans. His hair needed cutting. There were circles under his eyes. Mom. He stood when I approached. His voice cracked on the single syllable. I sat down across from him. I did not speak. I waited. He took a deep breath. I do not know where to start. Start at the beginning, I said quietly. And he did. He told me about losing the beach house, about the foreclosure and the fees and the debt that piled up like an avalanche. He told me about Brittany leaving, about coming home to an empty apartment and a note that said she could not do this anymore. He told me about losing his job when his reputation crumbled, about scraping by on odd jobs and unemployment. But more than the financial collapse, he talked about the emptiness, the loneliness, the realization that the life he had built was a house of cards, and when the wind blew, there was nothing left. I blamed you for everything he said. I told myself you were selfish, that you did not love me, that you chose money over family. It was easier than admitting the truth. What truth? That I did this to myself. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something genuine in his eyes. All those years, I expected everyone else to solve my problems. You, Dad, before he died. Brittany. Anyone but me. And when you said no, when you finally stopped bailing me out, I could not handle it. So I sued you. My own mother. I actually took you to court. His voice broke. I replay that day all the time, sitting in that courtroom, listening to the judge, seeing your face. And I think, who does that? What kind of person does that? I did not answer. I let him continue. I lost everything, Mom. My house, my wife, my career. But you know what the worst part was? I lost you. And Megan. I lost my family because I was too entitled, too selfish, too stupid to see what I was doing. Derek, I said slowly, why are you telling me this now? He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Because I need you to know that I understand. What I did was wrong. Not just the lawsuit, but everything that led to it. The taking, the expecting, the never giving back. I was not a son to you. I was a parasite. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. I looked at my son, at this broken man who had once been a baby in my arms, a child in my lap, a teenager rolling his eyes at my advice. I will always love you, Derek. I said the words I had rehearsed 1,000 times. But forgiveness is not something I can just give. It has to be earned. Trust has to be rebuilt. And that takes time. He nodded slowly. I know. I am not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I finally understand, that I finally see what I did. We sat there for a while longer. We did not hug. We did not cry. We just talked, carefully, tentatively, like two strangers trying to find common ground. When we parted, Derek said one more thing. I am going to do better, Mom. I do not know if you will ever believe me, but I am going to try. I nodded. Then show me, Derek. Do not tell me. Show me. I walked away. I did not look back, but I did not feel hopeless either. I am 55 years old now, sitting on my porch watching the sunset the way I do most evenings. The garden is full of tomatoes. The grandchildren visited last weekend. Megan called this morning just to say hello. It has been 3 years since that coffee shop conversation with Derek. Has he changed? I do not know. Not completely. Not yet. But I have seen glimpses. He took a job at a warehouse honest work that pays modestly, but pays. He moved into a small apartment, nothing fancy but his own. He calls me occasionally. Short calls, checking in, not asking for anything. Last month he sent me a check for $500. A note was attached toward what I owe you. More to come. It is a fraction of what he took. But it is something. It is a start. Do I trust him again? No. Trust is not given. It is built brick by brick over time. Derek laid many bricks of betrayal. It will take many more bricks of integrity to build something new. But I have learned something through all of this. Something about love and boundaries and the complicated territory between them. Loving someone does not mean giving them everything they want. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. No, I will not enable your bad choices. No, I will not sacrifice my future for your irresponsibility. No, I will not let you take from me until there is nothing left. Saying no to Derek was the hardest thing I ever did. It cost me years of peace, a small fortune in legal fees, and the kind of heartbreak that never fully heals. But it was the right thing to do. Because if I had paid for that beach house, Derek would have learned nothing. He would have continued expecting, demanding, taking. And when that house was not enough, there would have been something else. A car, a business, another house. The requests would never have stopped because I would have taught him that they did not need to stop. By saying no, by standing firm even when he took me to court, I gave my son something more valuable than money. I gave him the opportunity to face consequences, to hit bottom, to rebuild himself without someone else's hands holding him up. Whether he takes that opportunity is up to him. I cannot control that. I can only control my own choices, my own boundaries, my own peace. And I am at peace. Not because everything worked out perfectly, not because Derek transformed into the son I always wanted, but because I know I did the right thing. I worked hard. I saved responsibly. I helped my children as much as I could. And when helping became enabling, I stopped. That judge asked Derek a question that day in court. At what age does an adult child stop being responsible for their own financial decisions? Derek could not answer. But I can. The answer is always. We are always responsible for our own choices. Our parents can guide us, support us, love us. But ultimately, we choose who we become. I chose to become someone who worked hard and lived within her means, someone who valued integrity over appearances, someone who could look in the mirror and know she earned everything she has. Derek chose differently, but maybe, just maybe, he is finally learning to choose something new. I will watch. I will wait. I will love him from a careful distance, and I will never, ever apologize for saying no. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? Have you ever said no when everyone expected you to say yes? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories help others feel less alone. If this story touched you, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. I wish you the strength to set your boundaries, the wisdom to know your worth, and the peace that comes from living with integrity. Take care of yourselves.